Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to make another deer antler candlestick. But it's going to be way different from this one. I made this one quite a long time ago. It's pretty beefy. Let me back off a little bit here. It's got a very snubby, stubby kind of candle and a very free-flowing cup, I guess, for lack of a better term. Sort of reminiscent of a flower when I did it. I love this one, but we're going to make one a little bit more elegant today. And what we started with, I did a little tiny pre-work. Okay, I have a piece of antler tine right here. Let me redo this camera with my wonderful camera skills. So I have a piece of antler here that I just cut off. And I did a little sanding so you get that, the white and the brown. And all I did was get some sandpaper and you break off the high spots. See how it's starting to give me a little white and then the brown lines? And I did that along the whole antler. Alright, so that's how I got to this point. Now I have to decide what kind of base I want to make. This one has a very thick base. I do not want this one to be thick. So I am just using this 3/16 birch plywood. So very thin base. I got a little circle drawn on there, so we'll cut that out a little bit later on. Now we have to decide what kind of cup we want to make. If you saw my other videos on the vintage candlestick holder, so we're going to be using some of the same techniques. We have a piece of the dollar store cookie sheet, so we have to make ourselves the part that's going to hold the candle. Alright, so got a little ruler here. So I want it to be about 3/4 of an inch high. Come up a little bit more so y'all can see. Alright, so let me get a straight line going first. And then, like I said, about 3/4. Yeah, I think that'll do. So what I'll do is I'll cut this at 1 inch. And I can't see because the camera's in my face. And we're not building a rocket ship here, so do the best you can. Draw this line. Alright, so that's 1 inch. I might as well put the lip on it, which we're going to fold over while I got this out here. And that's going to be approximately 1/4 of an inch. And we'll draw that. Alright, so we got our layout. We're going to cut this out. Alright, so we got that. Now we'll come over here and trim this end. So that's what we end up with. Got a little piece right there I want to get off because that's sharp. Alright, so now we have to bend that at that line. We come over to the vise. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I just have a steel rule here. I'm going to put this in the vise right at that line so I can bend it. So let me get this in here. I have a little ball peen hammer and I'll tap that down till I get it at the line. Alright, tighten that down. I didn't do a fabulous job of making that straight, so I just take a little piece of file here. That's better. Alright, let me move you back over here. I have a little Harbor Freight anvil, which comes in so handy. And now I'll start to bend that over. Don't be tempted to just go at it. Do it little by little so it stays even. And there you have it. All right, let me reposition this and I'll show you the next step. So I drilled a 1/2 inch hole into the, I guess for lack of a better term, the horn of this anvil. And I put this 1/2 inch steel rod in. Comes in very handy. So now we're going to take this and we're going to start to form it. Alright, so here's a little snub of a candle. Just kind of get the idea how much I have to go. Alright, so that's good. So we'll get this and we'll give this a snip here, and then we'll trim it some more. Just kind of get an idea. Now we're going to want to leave a little slit here, so if a snub is a little end of a candle stuck in there, we can get it out. So we need a little more trim. Straighten this one out. Alright, now we'll continue to round this up. Looking good. All right, we'll call that good. Now we have that done. We'll put that aside. Now we're going to make, which I am not 100% sure yet, if I want to use my new crimping tool that I made and make something like this with the scallop on the edge, or if I want to make something sort of just kind of cup shape. So give me a second, let me think about this. Alright, so I decided to use the scalloping tool that I made. So I need to cut 2 pieces of poster board so I can make some nice circles. And I want it to be about 1.5 inches for the inside circle. So I'll just eyeball this. Let's see what we got there. Wow, pretty close to 1.5 inches. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that'll do. Alright, so let me cut this out. Maybe just a hair bigger. Alright, so that's going to be the inside part. Now we have to make the outside part that's going to be about 1/4 inch bigger than this. Let me center these 2 holes. These were just templates I used for another one. Okay, now we'll cut this out. And if you haven't seen me do this before, you'll get it in a couple minutes when I start it. I'll try to link all the other videos so you could watch them. Alright. So this is going to end up being the base part. And that'll end up being on top of there. And I'm looking and I'm saying, does it need to be that big? I don't think so. This is how my brain works. I got to visually see it. So I'm going to trim this back down to my original. Just shy of 1.5 inches. Okay, which would make me have to trim this also. Get in that hole. So we'll come in. Okay, I like that better. All right, now we're going to end up drilling a hole through this too, so we'll put a heavy punch mark in it. Now we're going to draw a line around this. We're going to cut that out. All right. First I'll cut it out this way. This makes it easier. Nip the corners off. A good pair of shears are invaluable when you're doing work like this. I picked these up at Harbor Freight. I believe they're named Doyle, and I think they're just called stainless steel scissors, if I'm not mistaken. They were about 10 bucks. I use these to cut leather, tin. I mean, watch, I just cut a bunch of tin, right? Watch this leather. Boop. And I mean, you could make some fine cuts with these things. I'm actually going to buy another pair just to keep them in case I ever lose these or something. All right, so now we have that cut out, okay? So grab yourself a piece of sandpaper, preferably a fine piece, and just go around the edge, make sure nothing's sharp. So let me do that and I'll bring you back. So we have that cleaned up. And I can see I did not make a very concentric circle. So what I'll do is, I'll just use this. It might be hard for you to see, but I'll be able to see it when I go to make the crimp. I'll try to make it as dark as I can. You can probably see that. All right, now I want to drill that hole. and clean this little mess up.
All right.
Here. So obviously the size of the hole is going to be dictated by the screw you're going to use. So here's just a little screw I got. So now it's got a little waste block here. And very, very slowly go through this. And there we have a pretty clean hole, which I'm pleased with. I'll actually take this. There's very minimal burr on that side. I'll just tap this and it's gone. And if you want, you could run the bit again through it and that cleans it right up. So now we have our hole. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get my crimping tool. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the only one in the world exactly like this. I looked, I was going to buy one, but I couldn't find it. And what it does is it makes that scallop crimp. Hopefully you can see that. If you don't have, well, I don't suspect anybody's going to have one of these. So you're going to have to use something like a needle nose pliers. Again, the original one that I made, the candle holder, I used the needle nose pliers, so it's possible, okay? So what we're going to do is take this, and we're going to come in, and I need to go right on that line and start to crimp this. And I'm going to go very, very soft to begin with. Then we'll move it over to the next spot. And the next spot is going to be where this is making a little dent. And I'll do this all the way around. All right, check that out. Now I have to decide if I want to bring them up more, right? Or how low I want to leave those. So give me a second, I'll be right back. So I decided to just refine what I have here. Now what that does is, it makes it, you kind of got a little dome on the back. So I'm going to lay this down and just tap around. And then you'll also see where you might have to make a couple little tweaks. I cannot tell you how valuable this tool is to me. I've made a bunch of those, lack of a better term, the Scrooge candle holders since the first one. I showed the second one, and I've made like 3 more. And with this thing, it's just a breeze. Alright, so what do we got here? That's a little off balance. Let's bring this one up. When these scalloped edges are, they're not, how to put it, they're not as deep. When I tap the back, they kind of squish down. So I'll come back to them and bring the ones that flattened and bring them back up. And again, it's just a bunch of fiddling with it until you're happy with the way it looks. And you would do the same thing with the needle nose plier. Until you get it where you like it. All right. All right, you can fiddle around with this for like hours, but I'm pretty pleased with it. One thing I want to mention too, as you're tapping this around, you're going to get to a point where that dome pops down, okay, and then it sits flat. I'm not too worried about it sitting flat because it's going to be like this, sitting on the top of this antler, but it's nice to have it sitting flat. So let me get this block. And we're going to do a little soldering. All right. Let me actually reset the camera. All right. So what I want to do is, I got a little very 320 sandpaper. And I'm going to be soldering this on here like this. So I want to just clean that area a little bit where the solder is going to go. Make sure it's at least at the edge where that is. All right, scuff this up a little bit. And what I have here is the last time I used the Oatly's tinning flux, I like this better doing this stuff. This is made by Alpha. It seems to not burn as much and leave a nasty film. So what I'm going to do is just put the bottom in there. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. I don't want a ton of this stuff on here. Just enough. I'm not even putting any on the base. What I'm going to do is just move this around a little bit to get a little smear in there. Alright. Now, I have some solder wire. And I just need a piece that'll fit right around there. Very thin solder wire. You don't need a lot. Actually, you have too much. I got to get that centered. And let me just get a little pick. excuse me, I want to make sure it's down. Let me look over the top, make sure it's centered. Alright, so I have this little pencil torch. This thing works great. Alright, we fire it up. And I found that you don't need a ton of heat very close to it. Whoop. This thing is finicky. And just start heating this up. You'll see the solder start to come out the bottom. That's it. That's all you need to do. So now let me let that cool off and I'll bring you back. Alright, so it cooled off. Check it out. So now I'll just clean this up. Get off the little bit of flux that's left there. I won't bore you watching me do that. I'll bring you back when that's done and we'll go to the next step. Alright, so I have my polishing wheel set up. Now this is a homemade wheel. This is a reversible motor. I drilled and tapped the shaft. So when you're grinding or polishing anything, you want the wheel to be rotating down and away from you. Because if you had it rotating the other way and it grabbed, it'll shoot it straight up into your face. So it's always got to be going down. So now this motor, when I turn it on, will go in the direction that you started. In other words, if I start rolling it this way and I turn it on, it's going that way. So now I just have some white compound. Make sure it's going the right way. And we are going to polish this piece of antler. Alright, hopefully you can see the shine on that. Alright, let me get this polishing wheel away and we'll go to the next. So what we're going to want to do is drill a hole so we can mount this on here. So if you look, you'll see where the pith is. It kind of gives you a center. So you can kind of eyeball it. This doesn't have to be totally precise. And we're going to want to drill a hole for this little screw, which is going to sit down in there. So let's get the right size drill bit. I think that'll work. And here's a tip when you're screwing anything into antler. If you feel resistance, don't keep trying to crank it in, because it'll break, especially if it's brass, okay? Antler is surprisingly hard. So now I'm just going to eyeball this. Again, if you don't feel comfortable using a drill, holding something in your hand, use a vise, okay? I've been doing this for, oh God, over 50 years, okay? So again, because I do it, I'm not advocating you do it, but this is just the way I do it. Always consider safety first. So if you're not comfortable holding something in your hand, which I'll be honest with you, I don't advise, put it in a vise or something like that, okay? That being said, I'm holding it in my hand. Now, I'm going to test that hole to see how much resistance I have. If it feels too tight, I'm going to drill the hole bigger. And I'm going to go all the way down. That's perfect. Now hopefully this hole is big enough. Yes, okay. Let's get this in there. It's tight, so I'm going to have to, let me get a little duck bill here and get that started. Alright, so we got our screw in there. Now we'll place that on there. Now we have to figure out where we want the front to be. And then we'll flip that slot to the back. Do I want the curve that way? I think I like it just like that. So I'll tighten that down. All right. All that's left now is to make the base. Let's put that aside. And here's our base, okay? So we have, we're going to drill a hole through that. I have to use a bigger drill bit because I have a bigger screw here. That'll do. Okay, now I'm going to want to chamfer that, countersink I mean, so that this sits flush on the bottom. Alright, let's see what I got here. Not in there. In here. Let's see. This should do it. We'll do a little test run first. That should do it. Aha, I did not drill that hole big enough. Go to the next size. Okay, that fits. Let's check the countersink. A little deeper. Bring this camera up a little bit. Nice. All right, so we got that done. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to cut that out. I don't think you want to see me cut that out. So basically what I'll do is I'll bring you back when I cut that circle out. I'm just going to use a scroll saw and just cut it out, and I'll bring you back. All right, so we have the base cut out. Oh yeah, I'm grooving it. I'm definitely digging it. Now the question is, do I want it smaller, the base smaller, proportion wise? Make it a little bit more dainty. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I think I might. What do we got here? I think I'm going to shorten it to about 2.5 or 2 3/4. Let me bring it back. Let's see what I shortened that down to. Oh, it's just a half. It's actually 2 15/16. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Definitely. Nice. All right, I'm gonna paint this black. When it's done being painted, I'll come back and we'll assemble it and we'll see how it looks. All right, so we have it painted, just a satin black. Now we got to drill a little hole in the bottom of here and get it in the center. We got a screw. Boom. Come down. Take a look. Nice. All right, one more thing before we put a candle in. I have a little piece of felt, and the felt's going to get glued onto the bottom here, okay? So I just use some 3M spray adhesive, but here's a little tip. Get yourself some blue masking tape, because what happens is when you put the spray adhesive on here, sometimes this will wrap around and it'll stick to the side. We definitely don't want that. So let's get this on here. Just to protect the site. Sometimes I'll put wax on there. Make sure it's covering it. That'll work. Let me put the adhesive on here and I'll be back. So this is the stuff I use. 3M Super Multi-Purpose Adhesive. Now we're going to take this, make sure we have a little bit around the edges. I'm going to give that a second to dry. All right. And I'll be now. We're going to start to trim this a little bit. We'll get closer and closer to the edge. See how that flops up? See that right there? Stuck to the tape. Alright, now we can take the tape off. See if we need to trim it anywhere. Get that out of there. Check it out. How cool is that? Alright, only thing left, get a candle. There you have it. A deer antler. Let's move back a little bit. A deer antler candlestick. I like that. Oh, that's cool. It's much sleeker than the other one. You know what I mean? So that was fairly easy to make. I mean, except if you don't have a crimping tool, which I doubt you do. But you know, if you use a needle nose, like I said, if you go back and look at my original, let's make a vintage looking candle holder, I used a needle nose pliers. And of course, you know, we got to light this thing up. So let's light her up. Well, there you have it, folks. Another antler project, another candlestick project. I love the way this one came out. Pretty. The video took way longer to make than the actual project did. But yeah, I mean, if you make a duplicate of that, that will sure look nice on a table. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you some inspiration. And, you know, create something yourself. And you know I'm going to say it. I'm sending you all much, much love and appreciation, my brothers and sisters. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you all are feeling well. And we'll see you on the next one.